Hey guys, Jane here, and I've recently seen quite a few posts on writers' forums where people kind of were criticizing people for writing for their audience and saying, why doesn't anybody just write on napkins and in notebooks anymore? And don't they realize that that's better and more true creative writing than these people who are trying to write for an audience? Clearly, I disagree, but I wanted to have a discussion about that. So here's the thing. If you are writing something that you are interested in and that you love, and it's just for you, yeah, you don't need to worry about your audience. You are your audience. You can make it as nonsensical and as graphic and as crazy as you want, and it's fine. And there's value in that. And I'm not saying there's not value in art that is just in your journals, in your notebooks for you. You might even be able to throw it out on Wattpad or, Goodreads and it be okay. But once you start asking people to pay you money for the work you've done, you need to make sure you are delivering a product that they will enjoy. You want every book sale to be a win-win. When I put out a book, I really want my readers to love it. I want them to feel completely fine about the money that they spent buying my book. And when I buy a book, I want to feel the same way. I want to love the book, or at least feel like I had a good, honest experience with the book. So, what does it mean to write to an audience, and how do we write to an audience without compromising our own ideals? And I think the first thing to consider is, who is your audience? You don't have to write exactly what they want. And I'm not saying you have to be cookie cutter, and I'm not saying you have to be make a book that's like everything else. You don't have to write Twilight all over again or Harry Potter all over again. You can definitely bring in your own self and your own story, but you still have to make sure, A, it makes sense, B, you're following good writing, good storytelling protocol. You have a beginning, a middle, and an end. You have characters that develop and change and progress. You have a protagonist that, we don't hate following. We have an antagonist who makes sense. Just good storytelling needs to happen. That's rule number one. You can get away with a little more with experimental or literary fiction as far as the rules of storytelling. But if you're creating a product to sell to readers, you want to create a story that they can read. Now, everybody's going to experience the journey a little bit different, but you want to make sure that at the very least your story is readable, and that includes editing for punctuation and grammar. Even traditionally published books have some mistakes, but you don't want to have mistakes everywhere. Another thing is knowing your readers and how much they can tolerate based on typical books in the genre of sex, violence, language, etc. If you are writing a murder mystery or a thriller, you can probably have a bit of gore, and it's not going to gross people out too much. If you're writing a cozy mystery and have graphic, bloody stuff, that's not okay. Similarly, in a cozy mystery, you're not going to have a lot of swearing. You're not going to have explicit sex. That's just not what the genre orders. And understanding that's important, because if you market a book as a cozy mystery and it's graphically violent and there's sex and really serious swearing on every page, your readers are not going to enjoy it. And they're going to feel cheated. And that's the other thing, is marketing a story the right way. So it's not just writing a story that is readable and that your readers will be able to read and enjoy, but also making sure you're marketing it truthfully, honestly, and to the right people. You don't want to be deceptive, because if you're deceptive, the wrong people are going to buy your book and they're not going to enjoy it. You can absolutely write a niche book with a small audience and have that very small audience absolutely love your book. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with writing a book to your tribe and marketing it to your tribe, as long as you are very clear that that's what you're doing. Don't try to write a book and market it to like not your tribe. And then when we read it, it's like, oh, no. For instance, I recently read a book from Kindle, or started to read, or tried to read, a dystopian. And this dystopian was marketed kind of as a dystopian adventure with a little bit of romance. It was basically smut. I got 20 pages in, and there was very little dystopian and a whole lot of smut. And it wasn't an enjoyable read, because, that's not what I signed up for. If you want to write a smut book, that's fine, but market it as a smut book. And I don't have a problem with smut. I write romance, clearly some hot stuff happening there. But, I need to know when I'm picking up a book what I'm getting into. And your readers want to know. They want to use their hard-earned money to buy a book that they think they're going to enjoy. So if your blurb is deceptive, if your cover is not correct for the genre, and sometimes that can be accidental, but if you're doing it on purpose to try to trick people, thinking, oh, I'll trick these people into getting in my book and then they'll love it, just don't do that. Also, a lot of people who are trying to write well in their genre, they kind of imagine their ideal reader, and I think that's very valuable. I have 3 friends who read my books, who beta read for me, every book. And I always, when I'm writing, think about them. Are they going to like this? Are they going to enjoy this? I want them to experience good things when reading the book. I don't want them to be like, man, she's smart and she's witty and she's got all these great, brilliant things that she's doing. I just want them to have a good time reading the book. I want them to enjoy the characters, because my ideal readers are romance readers. And these friends are people who, especially one in particular, she reads a lot of romance. And if I'm not taking her on a fun romantic journey where she can fall in love with my hero, I'm not writing to my readership. Another thing that I think is important here is making sure that if you write morally gray characters, they're morally gray and not evil, bad, unless we knew that going in. Again, I'm going to use romance as an example. If you are writing somebody who, the hero, who I'm supposed to fall in love with as a romance reader, who tortures people for fun, who, maims children, doesn't have a moral compass, that's not going to work for me. That's just not appropriate for the genre. Now, he can be somebody who's done bad things. He could be a soldier who's killed children in war and feels bad about it, but thought the kid was carrying a bomb, but carries that around as like part of his character and has PTSD. I can be on board there, but I can't be on board with somebody who tortures somebody for fun. Another thing is, if you're making a character who was previously evil and who you want us to follow and root for, you have to make them not super evil and redeemable. A really, really good example that I saw of this recently. I'm watching Stargate SG-1, and there is an episode called Korai. And this was really well done, and it caused a lot of discussion in our household, but it also kind of gave me like an envisionment of how to really do well with a character who, has done bad things, but is still the hero of the story. So to give you a real basic idea of Stargate, there's traveling in the universe and these really, really bad guys called Goa'ulds who use humans as hosts because they're parasites. And this one character, Teal'c, was a slave slash soldier for the Goa'uld. And in episode 1, he saves the Earth people, the army people, SG-1, who's come to fight the bad guy Goa'uld. He turns on the Goa'uld, joins them, because he doesn't agree with them. Later on in the season, in this Korra Eye episode, he goes to a planet where he had killed somebody on the orders of the bad guy Goa'uld. Now, mind you, he's a slave and he's a soldier, but, even so, in that episode, we see why he killed them, why he had no choice but to kill them, that he wasn't just being evil killing people for fun, that he wasn't just, there was a good reason why he did what he did. He killed people to save other people, and he's not a bad guy. Like, he's done bad things, he's killed people, but we can see that it wasn't like he liked killing people and he killed people because he thought he'd move up the ranks. It was, if I kill this one person, everybody else is going to live. And I'm going to save 100 lives by taking one. So that's important to remember. And I think that's one thing that writers who are not writing for their audience get wrong. They get too graphic. They get characters who are not redeemable and who don't like and who can't follow. And by the end of it, we're just going, this is a terrible person. And there wasn't a reason for them to be. I'm not saying you can't explore the plantation owner who rapes and murders slaves. But I don't want to read your book. Unless maybe he's redeemable and can turn over a new leaf. I'm not sure. Probably not. But, just make characters we can relate to. And don't just write what you think you feel like having and not consider your readership. I'm a ghostwriter, and I have somebody I write for, and there is not a single person in his book that you can root for. All of them are terrible people. And here's the challenge with that is I think it's going to be very hard to find an audience who can enjoy following not flawed, but terrible people, evil people, people whose character arc is not even like we're improving, but just we're terrible people doing terrible things. So anyway, my point is, consider your readership, make characters that they can follow, and that even if they're not perfect, and they shouldn't be perfect, that are redeemable. And if you're going to have the bad guy be who we follow, and all the horrible characters with no redeemable qualities, and we're just following them around, watching them rape and slaughter people for minimally good reasons, let us know that in the blurb, because I don't want to buy your book if that's what your book is. You might have other people that do, but market your book properly so that I buy a book that I'm going to enjoy. You get your money, I get a good book, we both win. Not you market it wrong, you didn't think about your audience, I buy your book and it doesn't make sense and it breaks all the rules and conventions of the genre and it's not as it was marketed, and I give you a 1-star rating, which makes you unhappy. I'm miserable because I just spent, an hour to 2 hours, what I make in an hour to 2 hours on this book, especially if it's a hardcover, a $30 hardcover, that's several hours worth in my paycheck that I just spent on that book. That isn't what I wanted to buy because it was misleading and the author didn't think about the reader. So If you're writing in your journals, write whatever the heck you want. If you are writing and want to be paid, think about your readers. Keep them in mind. That is my rant. That is my thoughts on that topic. You're welcome to comment below. And it's okay if you have a differing opinion, but again, as a reader, please market your book properly, tell me a good story, and have some editing. My social media is down below as well, and I will see you next time.